Okay, so Jez Park here. Good to be back. Haven't done much for a while. Just been so busy. It's good to see there's a new version of PBR Painter out. So to celebrate, I thought I'd do a tutorial which I haven't done for a while. It's going to be a very basic tutorial, but PBR Painter 3.2.1 I think it is now, or something like that. Probably whatever it is probably version 5 if you might be listening in a couple of years from now. This PBR Painter, just like to say, is fantastic. It's getting better and better and better. My only criticism is that it's almost getting too good, because there are so many things now that you need to kind of remember more things that you can use to make it make your life a lot easier. But isn't that the same with everything that's worth learning? So PBR Painter is the new version is now out, and for those of you who aren't aware, there's a PBR Painter YouTube page, and Will has done a fantastic job. He's done some great tutorials. They're all here. You can learn all about the basics of PBR Painter. But there was one which I thought I would just go over and elaborate on a little bit today, and it's been really useful for me because I like to do work on edges. I like to have worn edges on stuff. That's my thing. So on this one here, where Will has done the layer masks fundamentals, if I just go there, you'll see that he actually has all broken it all down into, no, it's not this one. Okay, let's go back. Layer masks explained. This is the one.
This one is,
oh, that's very loud. And so if you'll notice that he goes on in 1.27, he talks about geometric masks here, and he covers all of the basic fundamentals of the geometric mask. But I'm going to go a step further with the geometric masks, primarily, or namely, the bevel mask and the bevel edge mask, geometric mask, and the simple edge geometric mask. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to explain what I'm talking about to start off with, if you haven't watched that video, which I recommend you do. Here we have our basic cube. We're in the PBR Painter workspace. Let's create a new material and then set up PBR Painter, and I'm just going to demonstrate the actual mask itself, so I'm not actually going to spend too much time filling it or anything. I'm just going to give it a colour, and let's make it blue. Gosh, life is hard. You can't decide what colour you're going to give something. So there it is, blue. And I want to fade the edges, wear the edges out, so I can see the white below the blue. And to do that, I need a layer mask, specifically a geometric layer mask. Go OK, and now you'll notice it says it requires cycles, so I need to be on cycles in the workspace. And if I click on the mask button here, it will show me my mask, or in this case it won't, because you can't see anything with this simple mask. Doesn't matter what we do with the color ramps, no matter how much we squeeze them, you're not going to get anything out of it. And that is because the simple mask requires geometry. It's not just about the shape, it's about the geometry as well. So if I tab into edit mode, you'll see we've got basically whoops, I didn't mean to do that. We've got basically 8 vertices, and we need a lot more. So the best thing to do is select it all and go subdivide. Of course, what am I talking about? I don't even need to do that. I can just add a subdivision modifier to it, and that will do the job for me. So if I do that and put it on simple, if I go on to if I just pop it into here for a second and show you wireframe version of it. Where are you, wireframe? Where are you? There. So I need to turn optimal display off. So there, basically, as you can see, now I can just add geometry to this. Now you wouldn't be able to do this with every model, because this is the same size all around. So all the planes, if you like, all the faces are exactly the same. But in this particular case, it works quite well. So I can just add as much geometry to that as I like. Now, if I go back to PBR Painter, with my geometry, you can just about see that we're starting to see the edges, and that's how the simple mask works. Now you get a different effect with this one. the higher you go, the tighter it becomes. So if you want it really tight to squeeze it, you can get quite an accurate looking edge for that, which is great. But actually you might decide you want that kind of look for it, where the corners are kind of getting more worn than the edges, which in some cases works quite well, which I have to say doesn't happen with the bevel modifier. The bevel modifier, the bevel mask, basically just does the outer edges, which does look pretty good, I have to say, and it kind of does a nice kind of grittier job than the simple mask. So why might you want to use this simple mask, especially seeing as you have to have extra geometry for it, whereas with the bevel one you don't? Well, I will show you. I will show you with a new scene. Bear with me. So I have two objects here. I have a subdivided object box, and I have, let's just hide that one, a simple box. We are not going to use the simple box to actually create the textures using PBR Painter. We're just going to use that, so once we've actually created our textures, we can actually place our textures on that, because the UV maps are identical. So basically I made this box first, and then I made a duplicate, and I duplicated it, and the UV maps are exactly the same. So whatever I do with this one here, I can apply to my original object. So let's go back to PBR Painter and let's actually do something which looks half decent. So here begins the tutorial, if you like. So let's create a new material. Let's call this box. Let's set up our material. Don't need to back it up. With our first material, it's just going to be a plain wood. So I have one ready to download. Let's add a new layer. Let's call this base wood. Okay, let's go to the tool shortcuts here and look for my wood material. So I've got color, GL and roughness. If I refresh material now, we should see our box, which we do. Looks pretty good. The texture mapping needs to be more detailed, so let's take it up to say 5 all round. I think that works quite well. So there's our plain unvarnished box, as it were. And so for our next layer, we're going to use a varnished version of the wood. So let's add a new layer. Let's call this varnished wood. Go OK, and let's add our textures now. So color, normal, roughness. Oh, there's the specular one here, so let's add that one as well. And let's refresh that material, and that should look like a sort of stained, varnished version. The specular is not quite as shiny. Oh, I don't know, that will do. Let's change the UV mapping again. Now I'm using the UV mapping as opposed to box, but either would probably do. There you go, that looks nicer, doesn't it? So basically what I want to do is I want to wear the edges out of here. So it looks like we've got lots of kind of bits of sort of wood that we've stuck together to create a box, and to do that, of course, we start with a layer mask, and it's going to be a geometric mask. I'm going to go OK, and let's go to, where are we, where's my, there it is. Go to cycles, and let's click on the mask view, and if we go to curvature with bevel, you should see straight away we've got quite a nice mask. Now you'll notice that it's brighter on the outside here, and where these sides are actually almost touching, in fact they should be touching. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that whole one closer. Now as I move it away, you'll see that the edges become a lot brighter, but as I move it closer to the one, which is where I kind of want it, I've lost my edge. and that's not good for me. I've got a bit there, but not sufficient. I want it to be like pretty much the same all over. Let's try making, yeah, in fact, as I tighten up or squeeze the colours, I've lost them even more. But this is why you might want to use the curvature simple. If I click on that now, I have to change the parameters quite a bit, but you will see that I'm starting to get it, and it actually hasn't lost it on the inside as well. So in fact I even quite like the fact that the corners are more worn than the edges, and it's quite a nice kind of side effect of using this subdivision, this subdivided object with subdivision surface modifier. If I take it up too high I could lose that, although that's not bad. Quite like that. I'm torn now. I think I preferred that one because it was a bit rougher. Yeah, let's go with that one. So now if I unmask the mask, and I'm going to have to kind of rework it because I need to invert the colours of my mask. So yes, there we go. So there you can see we're getting those nice worn edges, which is just what I wanted. And it's not just on the outside, it's also on those bits there, which is just what I wanted. And so we're pretty much almost there, except of course you wouldn't have, they wouldn't be worn everywhere on the edges, they would just be, they would kind of be less. So to finish off, we'll just add a procedural mask. Let's have a look at this one. I think that looks pretty good as it is. Let's just squeeze it a bit, squeeze the colours, and let's change the mapping so it's kind of stretched rather than be on point on objects. I'm going to be on UV mapping and scale it, say 2 on one and 4 on the other, so that's kind of got more of a woody grain feel to it, a bit more on that. That looks pretty good. And so if we now do the stack, I've kind of lost the brightness on my edges now, so let's squeeze that actual whole mask a bit more. I think that looks pretty good. Hopefully it'll work on the stack. See, now I've kind of lost my colours a bit more, so I need to kind of undo a bit of what I've done with that geometry mask. Let's go back to my edges. That looks good. Here, just need to bring back some of that varnish. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. And what's nice is I've kind of got that worn bit on all the edges, not just the outside ones, because if I now go back to my geometric mask, go to the bevel one, it will still look pretty good, but I've instantly lost that wear, that kind of on those edges there and the inside, and I liked those. They add something. So if you're looking for that and if you're wondering why or how to get it, then you need to subdivide your object and do it on a subdivided object, and ideally add a subdivision surface to it as well. The final thing we need to do is just bake our textures down and apply them to this box simple version of the same object. So let's pop back to the interface, onto the baking tab, select, I'm going to go 4K because I just like to see a little bit more detail in my textures. Let's choose save textures externally. I've got a folder ready to go, and then click bake. I'm just going to pause the video while it doesn't take very long, but I'm just going to pause it anyway. Okay, and that's finished. And so if we pop over to the shading tab and change the object to our box simple, and then using the node wrangler shortcut, Control Shift and T, that should allow us to find our PBR textures. Got them here somewhere. I did actually do a 4K and a 2K just in case, but we're going to do the 4K, and that should appear there. There we go, and that looks pretty good. Now the one thing I've done on the simple model is actually I added a bevel modifier, which so there it is before, and it just helps to make the edges look a little bit rougher from a distance. I think that works quite well. So let's pop it onto cycles. Actually, let's just see what it looks like on Eevee. It should look pretty much the same. Yep, there you go. That looks quite a nice job, quite simple setup, and I think that works quite well. So hopefully that's been of some use to you, and you can find some use for that in your own projects. Okay, just to add a little bit extra at the end, I thought I'd have a go and create something a little bit more useful with the same process. And so once again, I've got done two objects. Spent a little bit more time on this one, and you can see that I've subdivided it in exactly the same way, and I've got a simple crate and the more subdivided crate, and I've just added an extra layer, grunge layer, just onto the top, but everything else is pretty much done the same way. And I think overall it gives quite a nice look to it. Played with it a little bit more. I spent the time fiddling with it. So I'll include this object as well in the download. I'll put a download link in the description, and hopefully it will make more sense if you can see the object as well. So thanks for listening. Take care, and God bless.